In this model, we'll explore how AI can disrupt traditional workflows and roles. AI as a disruptor actually means it's changing how we do research and support work in fundamental ways. We will look at how AI automates research tasks, how it is displacing or changing support roles, the risks that it comes with in terms of data integrity and trust actually in research, and then the ethical concerns that arise. We will also see some cautionary tales, some real life examples of how AI initiative gone wrong. So one thing I wanted to do for me is as we go through, please think about it this way. In what ways might AI disrupt my own work? I wanted you to have that kind of notion or that kind of mindset as you, come along with me in this training. In what ways might AI disrupt my work? All right. So to the first one major disruptive impact is the automation of core research tasks. Research often involves a lot of time consuming work, from reading literature, analyzing data, running experiments. This slide shows how AI is turbo changing all those tasks, disrupting the traditional slow of pace of research that we used to know. So modern AI system can scan vast data sets or libraries of paper in a fraction of the time it will take a normal human being. Imagine an AI that can read through thousands of articles and pull out key findings in minutes, something that might take maybe a graduate intern, for example, to do in months. And a recent survey shows that about two-thirds of scientists said AI gives them faster ways to process data. That means a literature review that once took weeks might be done now in an afternoon with AI assistance. The result is that researchers can now cover more ground much faster. Now, another one is AI is also automating lab work. We now have robot lab assistants and AI algorithms that can even stimulate some of these things, handle data collection, or even conduct experiments. For example, there are some labs now that use AI control robotic arms to mix chemicals or even run assay. So AI driven simulation can test experimental setup virtually, and that will reduce manual labor and human error that comes up in some of these traditional processes. So the researcher's role is gradually shifting from, instead of having to pipette like 500 samples by hand, you might just spend more time supervising the automated processes and then interpreting the results. Another disruptive capability is finding patterns that human might miss, and that's pattern discovery. Machine learning models can detect complex correlations in data that a human being could have overlooked. A very good example is DeepMind's AlphaFold AI. That's an AI model called DeepMind's AlphaFold. This predicted 3D protein structure, solving a biology problem that humans has worked on for many years, 50 years, if not more. So, in other words, AI might lead to discoveries that wouldn't have happened otherwise because it has this ability to crunch data in ways that we can't do in our head. Now, applying this to us as an institute, what does it mean for us? It means that AI as a disruptor in research will make experiments and analysis to be done now faster, and also perhaps with more insight. A small thing could accomplish what usually would have required a big team or a lot more time. So it's accelerating the scientific process and challenging the traditional research workflow. That's one of the things AI is shifting in the traditional research methodologies. We can put this in is a discussion that we can start, and feel free to put your comment in the chat. If there are any researchers here that are already using tools that is automating some of their tasks, like maybe you have a software for data analysis or literature review, for example, just feel free to let the comments start coming in the chat box, okay? So AI can drastically improve research efficiency, but that efficiency also affect the people who support research. So let us look at how AI is also disrupting the ancillary roles, the data managers, the admin staffs, the librarians. So basically, the staff who keeps the research running smoothly. AI is changing support roles in many research organizations as well. AI isn't just changing what we research, it is changing who does what in our institution. I mean, roles like research assistants, administrative staff, librarians are being reshaped now by AI. AI is taking over a lot of routine tasks. Think of things like data entry, scheduling, basic bookkeeping, for example, or even initial literature searches. I mean, there are AI tools now that can quickly fetch and even summarize papers, something that maybe a junior staff member might have manually done in the past. An AI data entry system can automatically digitize lab readings. These are tasks that were done by someone. I mean, it was someone's daily job before. They can now be handled. They can be automated. This can disrupt those rules in question. Now, however, it is important that to know that we are often seeing rules evolve rather than vanish. Okay, so many jobs are not actually disappearing, unlike you might have been thinking now. They are changing. So a data entry clerk might become a data verifier or even an AI system operator. So staff are moving from doing manual work to now overseeing and collaborating with AI. Another example, instead of librarian manually indexing articles, now they might train an AI to do the indexing or help researchers refine their AI search queries. So the human role shift to higher level tasks, interpreting AI output, for example, and then adding the human touch wherever the AI falls short. So now organizations are responding to this by upscaling their staff and even creating new roles. Probably some of us might have seen job titles like AI specialist, data curator, or AI ethicist. Those roles that barely existed like many 10 years ago. So even if some traditional tasks will shrink or will disappear, new opportunities focusing on managing of AI tools or ensuring data quality are now growing. So the key is preparing our workforce so people can join into these new roles or the new normal roles, so to say, instead of being left behind. Zooming out, job market impact. Okay. AI is expected to both eliminate and create jobs. Recently, the World Economic Forum predicts about a loss, like a net loss of millions of jobs that's going to happen in the next 5 years due to AI. And these are particularly in the admin roles. But in the same vein, they also predicted that there will be creation of millions of new jobs in AI related fields. It is a disruptive shift, no doubt. But I always like to put it this way. AI is not necessarily going to steal your job. But you know what is going to happen? Someone who knows how to use AI might be the one to. So, in short, those who adapt and learn tools will be the one to have an edge in the long run. Again, I want us to do a quick poll. Remember, I told you that as I go along with the teaching, with the training, it's going to follow some interactive pool session. So here, I again want you to either go to slido.com with our code or you scan the QR code. And the question now is, do you think AI could do your job from what we just listened to now? Do you think AI could do your job? Okay. The answer is yes, no, I don't know. Do you think AI could do your job? Okay. I'm seeing a mix of view. That's natural. I mean, it's natural to have that mixed feeling. Uncertainty is normal, all right? And that's exactly why we're going to be discussing both the pros and the cons today. And the goal is to understand these changes so we can navigate them. Another question again is um, how worried are you about AI's impact on your job on a scale of 1 to 5? How worried are you? Okay. Let me also see your response on that. Like I said, it's uncertainty is quite normal. I was expecting that. That's exactly why we're discussing this today. And it's for us to understand that these changes are here to stay and then how we navigate them. Okay. All right. Let's keep the response coming and let me go back to the slide. So, AI as a disruptor will be the next thing that we'll be talking about. Okay. But before we go to that, let us talk about the risk that come with relying so much on AI, specifically risks to data integrity, authenticity in research, and those job security fears that we just touched on now from the pool that we just did. Okay. So every new tech brings risk. For AI in research, the big concerns include things like can we trust the data and the results if AI has an hand in that? And on the human side again, how does AI impact trust and morale? For example, we're talking about the fear about job security. So first, AI can sometimes generate information that is incorrect. Let us know that, or even completely fabricated, and yet it's going to look plausible. So this is what we call AI hallucination, which means total mistake. For instance, I mean, ChatGPT might confidently give you a statistics or a reference that it just made up. So if researchers are not very careful, such AI generated errors can slip into analysis or papers and undermine data integrity. You can imagine an AI summarizing experimental results, but it's completely misinterpreting a trend. I mean, the conclusion will be total rubbish. It will be wrong. Or like an AI tool fills a missing data with something it thinks should be there. Those are some of the errors. Those errors can be hard to spot because AI output often looks very well polished and authoritative. And that is what we call AI hallucination. Next is authenticity. AI makes it easier to generate text and content. There is concerns that someone could let AI write large part of the paper or even generate an entire bogus paper with made up data. In fact, I think in the last, I think past last year, there were a lot of, I mean, journals had to retract thousands of papers that are suspected to be AI generated. And they are like junk science. There was a statistics that says that about 55% of surveyed researchers believe AI makes it easier to commit scientific fraud. And that's a big number. That's a majority. So if this is a very real fear in research community, if AI can churn out bogus experiment or copy pasted text at scale, the literature could get well polluted with low quality or unethical work. Another one, if we start seeing lots of this AI generated paper or AI cost error, it will lead to erosion of trust in scientific results. Think about it. If next year there is a scandal that many published paper were essentially written by chatbots and contained inaccuracy, people generally, I mean, the public or policymakers, they might start doubting research findings in general. And let's not forget, what is the foundation of science? Trust is the foundation of science. So these AI related issues pose risk to that trust. And then finally, beyond the data and the paper, there is the human factor of job security, as we discussed. I mean, from the poll that we just did now, people worry, will AI take my job? This anxiety is especially among most ancillary staffs and even the researchers, even. And one tech CEO recently even predicted a coming. He called it white collar bloodbath. This means that a huge number of office jobs could be automated. Well, I know we can debate that. I mean, we can start debating that. Maybe a little bit exaggerated, if you ask me to. And but many still argue that AI will create new jobs, no doubt. And the fear is real and can affect morale. If staff are anxious about being replaced, they might resist using these AI tools. So, ironically, it might slow down organizations' progress with AI. So, this is an area that, as management of organizations, needs to handle carefully. And I would like to say clearly, our aim with AI should be augmentation. And I repeat, the aim should be augmentation, not pure replacement. AI is actually here to handle those mundane tasks so you can focus on higher level, interesting work. If you're worried about your role, think of AI as an opportunity to elevate your role. You might spend less time on menial job and work. And work more on those critical thinking, strategic or creative tasks. So we're going to talk more on that in best practice in the best practice module about how to manage these workforce changes responsibly. But the main thing is for us to understand that there are risks that comes with these AI changes. Okay. Now, if you have any questions about the risks, whether it's technical or human, please, like I said, please feel free to drop your question in the chat box. These are very critical issues. So, and we will come back to them. We will discuss about them. So, because I know someone might want to ask, for example, how do you guide against AI error? I mean, these are some questions that I expect to hear. But in the ethical AI module that we are going to also look at, we'll discuss ways to keep humans in the loop and to validate AI output to prevent some of this AI error risk. Okay. Let's have that in mind. And now that we've covered how AI can disrupt by automating tasks and the new challenges that it brings, let us dive into a specific set. Let us start looking at the ethical concerns now that come with AI. I mean, this includes things like AI bias in AI decision, the loss of human oversight that I just talked about, and the very important one, intellectual property issues with AI generated content. Understanding some of this pitfall will help us in knowing how to use AI responsibly. So I move on to the next slide now. So here we will learn about the ethical issue when deploying AI. As AI system make more decision in our work, we have to ask ourselves: are those decisions actually fair? Are they transparent? Like who is accountable if something goes wrong? So these are some of the things that we'll address in this slide. So AI can unintentionally amplify biases that are present in training data. They can amplify those biases. If an AI is trained on historical data that contains bias, for example, it may reproduce or even worsen that bias. Let me give you an example. Let's say an AI hiring tool trained on past hiring decision might lean towards gender or racial biases if those existed in the data that it was used to train, and then unfairly screen out certain groups, or even in research. If you have a predictive AI model that is built mostly on data from, let's say, Western population, it might not well perform well for other population. That is a bias problem. The outcome can be one-sided or unfair, which is a big ethical and reputational issue. So we must evaluate our AI tools for bias and adjust them or constrain them to mitigate this. Next is if we rely too much on AI, we risk losing human oversight. Over reliance could mean we'll stop double checking AI recommendations, letting errors on ethical decisions slip through. For instance, if an AI suggests a course of action, like say a research conclusion or even if it's an administrative decision, for example, and we rubber stamp it without critical review, we might be implementing something that is harmful or wrong. You would often hear the phrase, keep a human in the loop for high stakes decision, like a financial decision or a major hiring choice, for example. Completely handing it over to AI is risky. We will talk about and discuss the strategies to maintain human oversight as a safeguard in the upcoming models. Now, AI decision can be a black box. What does that mean? It means the creator or the user might not even fully understand how the AI arrived at the answer. So if an AI denies someone, for example, a research grant or flags a data anomaly, we can't explain why. That is a problem for accountability. Who is responsible if the AI make a mistake? How do we explain its decision to someone affected or to an audit committee, for example? That is lack of transparency. And this lack of transparency make it hard to trust AI system and to correct them when they go wrong. So ideally, we would prefer AI systems that provide reasons for their output, or at least we need processes to interpret and verify them. There are some AI tools that have these explainability features. We're going to touch on that in our risk management modules. Okay, so finally on this slide, which is a hot topic, generative AI and intellectual properties. These are, these AI systems learn from vast amounts of existing content, which might include copyrighted text, images, or even music. So when an AI generates something new, it could be remixing what it saw in training, which blurs the line of the true ownership. I'll give you an example. If an AI writes an article using a style or phrase from some copyrighted sources, who owns that output? Or if an AI generated image that closely mimic an artist's work that it was trained on, can we say, is that not copyright infringement? So as an institution or as an organization, if we use generative AI to create content, we have to think about the attribution and rights. And also, any content that we feed into external AI tools, especially if it is a confidential data, it could raise intellectual property or privacy issue if not properly handled. So we need to be cautious about that. Okay. We will revisit all these concerns in a later module on ethical AI and governance, but focusing on how to mitigate bias, ensure human oversight, all those things. It demands some level of transparency and sets the proper policy right for the data use. But for now, it is important to surface these issues as part of how AI is disrupting the workforce and organizational setup. AI forces us to tackle new ethical questions that were not issues before. So these are some of the concerns that comes with AI adoption. And to really underline how serious this pitfall can be, let us look at a few of these real life scenario where AI in research settings went wrong. This cautionary tale shows the consequences of the pitfall that we just discussed, like AI error or lack of oversight, and remind us why we need to be very careful. So here are some notable instances where AI's role in science or research had embarrassing or negative outcome. These case studies showed why we need to integrate AI carefully and thoughtfully. Like AI generated paper blunders. There have been incidents of academic papers that turns out to have to have some sections that were obviously generated by AI, sometimes containing silly errors. For example, there was a published paper it was found to include a section that it was obvious that it was clearly written by ChatGPT because it was completed with that popular phrase of ChatGPT. I am just an AI. I cannot provide reference. You can imagine. What happened afterwards? The paper had to be retracted, but it was embarrassing for the journal. This shows that if researchers rely too much on AI to write text without proper oversight, it can slip through peer review and later damage their credibility. A very good example again is Metal, which is Facebook parents' company. They launched an AI model, which they call Galactical, in the late 2022. It was supposed to help scientists by answering research questions and summarizing papers, like an AI research assistant kind of. It's a very good innovation. So it sounds great. Well, but within just 3 days, Meta had to pull it offline because Galactica was producing authoritative sounding nonsense, hallucination. Researchers quickly found it would generate false scientific facts and fake citation, but it was in a very convincing way. This is exactly AI hallucination issue. And Galactica was making stuff up, the AI model. And if someone trusted it, they would be misled. Metal's reputation was, it took a hit, and it was a very public reminder that even top tech companies can get it wrong with AI. It made scientists more wary of overly hyping AI tools. Those are some of the things that happen when we don't pay attention to some of those things. Another one is IBM's Watson, which was a famous AI. He even won. There is a popular American game show of getting the right questions after the answer is revealed. It's called Jeopardy. It's an American game show. The IBM's AI model called Watson. He won that competition. So IBM invested heavily to apply Watson to healthcare, specifically to recommend cancer treatment, and they call it Watson for oncology. It was hype, and everybody thought it was the future of medicine. But after years of development and millions of dollars, it failed largely because it wasn't delivering useful results. And doctors found Watson recommendation not very helpful, sometimes even unsafe. And it struggled with the complexity of real patient data and cancer care. So IBM quietly scaled back the project. And what is the lesson? Even a powerful AI can fail. A powerful AI that is built with all the recommendation of this world, it can fail in a complex real world setting, especially if it doesn't have the right data or if the problem is too complex. And lastly, is a troubling trend in academic publishing, the so-called paper mills. They've started using AI to churn out fake research paper for profit. There are some dishonest actors. They can have AI write an entire bogus paper, including invented data, and then try to get it published or sell it to researchers that are desperate for publications. This is a direct abuse of generative AI. So, in response, journals, what are they now doing? They are now implementing AI detection checks to catch AI written text. So it is now becoming an arm race between AI generation and then AI detection. So the existence of AI driven fraud rings, really undermine the integrity of research publishing now. Imagine you are a sincere researcher having to compete with a flood of AI generated junk paper. It can be demoralizing, and it can even draw out real findings. So these cases that we've looked at now highlight that AI can fail or even be misused in the most spectacular ways that you can think of. So when we adopt AI, we have to plan for these pitfalls, the misinformation, the lack of accuracy, the public backlash that might follow it, wasted investment, and even ethical breaches. All of this that we just saw in this example. So it really reinforced why what we'll be talking next, which is our next module on managing AI risk and ethics, is very important to prevent our AI initiatives from becoming these kind of situations that we just talked about. But before we move on, I would again want us to do a quick recap of the key points from this AI as a disruptor module. So, Tolu, can I pass the mic to you now? So you can just run us through these key takeaways for module 2.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much, sir. That would be my pleasure. I've learned a lot from this model too, AI as a disruptor. And from this module, I've gleaned from it how AI has affected industries, has affected our workplaces, and even regular mundane tasks that used to be done in some contemporary ways and in some traditional ways before. As it touches on research, because that's very important for our institution, AI has actually accelerated the rate of research tasks. It has made it such that what was done in a long time before is actually being achieved in a fraction of that time these days. And then with that has come that disruption in that industry, and also some pitfalls that have come with that in the way some fraudulent or mischievous actors might actually try to hijack that for their own personal gains. So that's for research, also for support services and ancillary services. I've also learned that one thing that struck me from what you presented to us was that roles are not being, you know,
Correct.
taken away or
Eradicated. Yes.
stopped. Roles
Yes.
are actually being transformed,
Mm-hmm.
reshaped and
Augmented.
transformed. Yeah. So it's not like it's been relegated. They're just being transformed. And then so that's the disruption in that industry. So for people to also note that, and also, as the roles are transformed, we also need to transform with that. There are new roles now, that did not exist before. AI specialist, AI curator, all of those things. And then, it's very critical to upskill as the tides change. One other thing I learned is the significant risk that comes with this emerging AI adoption. So as we adopt AI, there are risks that also come with it. There are two sides to it. As much as there are pros, there are also cons. With the adoption of AI, and one of the ones you mentioned is hallucination. Where you cited some examples where AI gave out, authoritatively sounding um, things that are not real, made up data and texts and all of that. So we need to be careful about it. The role, the responsibility for the authenticity of whatever AI gives lies with the user of the AI machine itself. And then lastly, one other thing that I picked from this session is the ethical challenges that um, you know that require urgent attention with AI. Things like algorithmic bias, things like lack of accountability. Who's responsible for whatever comes, or is churned out by an AI machine? Also, intellectual property rights.
Mm-hmm.
It's now a blurry line, and then I believe that there will be more on that, as the industry evolves. And it's crucial for us as an organization to address these things as we proactively adopt artificial intelligence. So thank you so much, sir, for this beautiful session.
All right, thank you very much, Tolu. So with that, we've covered a lot of materials. I mean, just to do a check on everyone, how is everyone doing? Remember, like I said, it's absolutely fine to drop your questions or your comments or keep conversation going at any time in the chat box. Okay, because this session is for you. All right, so now that we've understand AI disruptive side, let's flip the coin now. In the next module, we will see how AI can enable us more and create positive opportunities. We will keep things as interactive as we go, like we started. So, coming up next is module 3, and that is where we'll talk about AI as an enabler.